Good evening and welcome to The Square. Tonight is a very timely discussion where we'll be discussing, the focus for tonight's show is on the national examination results, which were just released this week on Monday, as well as teacher recruitment and having a look at what the Ministry of Education is doing to ease this process. My name is Denan PC, host of The Square, and I'm happy to welcome with us tonight on the show this Minister of State in charge of primary and secondary education, Mr. Gaspar Twadirayezu. Honorable Minister, great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Great. As always, I'm joined by the Square resident panelists, Berna Namata, resident panelist on the Square. Great to have you on the show tonight, Berna. Great. As always, Charlie Harbour, resident panelist on the Square. Great to have you, Charles.
Samia, Dana, how are you?
Good.
Have you seen Berna's hair?
I know, it's amazing. I was hoping you'd no. Lovely, lovely hairstyle, natural hairstyle. Yes. Are there any midweek highlights that you'd like to share with our viewers, or should we dive in?
I think I want to talk about sports and sports tourism. There's quite a bit happening. Obviously, I have a bias towards cricket. There's an international Under-19 World Cup qualifier that has ended. Uganda has won that. They will be going to the World Cup. There's a big one coming up as well. Six Nations. So we're superly excited that sports tourism is taking center stage. Whether the entire ecosystem is organized and ready for it is a totally different story, and I think there's a huge opportunity that we need to tap.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know you're passionate about sports. You've been a sports
absolutely.
administrator. It's always great to hear you take.
And I play sport, and I don't know about the two of you. I think you just walk and run around.
Berna, any midweek highlights?
I've been too busy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll kick off with the first segment of the discussion, and I'm very happy to welcome Honorable Minister once again. And this is to do with the national examination results. We're also going to touch on repetition of classes, amongst other things. So like I said earlier on, the Ministry of Education released national examination results on Monday. And from these results, out of 251,901 pupils, 730,000 candidates passed, which represents 82.5% of the general passing rate. And it's very important to note that these were the first national examinations in the last 2 years, because they were slowed down by the COVID-19 pandemic and measures put in place to curb down the spread. So, Honorable Minister Twadirayezu, I would like to ask you, just to kick off, if you could just share with us the trend regarding the pass rate for national living examinations, at least in the last 3 years, also with a particular focus on the pandemic. Did it impact it, and in which way it impacted the pass rate of this? Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much, and thank you for having me so that we can have this conversation. And as you just said, I would like to share a few numbers regarding the pass rates for the past 2 or 3 years. In 2018, the pass rate for primary was 81.5, and in 2019 it was 81.2, and in 2021 it was 82.5. So obviously, if you look at those numbers, we have been around 80, so I wouldn't say that it changed much this year, but obviously we would want to have every child who sits for these exams pass. But these are the numbers that we have been having. So, and as you said, unfortunately this year we had 17.5%. Of the learners who were not able to reach the required benchmark. And as you said, maybe we'll also discuss this as we go along. These children, as long also with the others in O-level, will require an additional time for remedial education so that they can progress next year when they will be ready.
Thank you. So what you're saying, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, there's actually an increase in the pass rate?
So there was a slight increase. I would not say it was a big increase, but there was a slight increase from the last years.
Okay. Before Charles and Brenna weigh in, I'd like us to go to the issue of, students who did not make it. And, of course, these details were released on Monday. And over 60,000 candidates, this is a combination of primary leaving and A-level, ordinary level students, did not get the required pass mark. Of course, we'll have to repeat. And really what I want to ask, also on behalf of the public, because there was a general request for clarification, in terms of, for students who did not pass, there was a directive, or should I say a statement from the ministry that even though they did not pass, if they want to repeat, they'll not be allowed into private schools. If you could just share the rationale for this, and also just briefly, what was the standard, what was the trend before for students who didn't get the pass rate? Were they just automatically advanced to senior one, high school?
Yes, the past practice was that everyone who would sit for the national exam would automatically be promoted to the next grade. But in 2000, in February of last year, the National Leadership Retreat recommended that the automatic promotion practice be discontinued. And this is in line with what we are seeing today. And I also want to clarify on the private school issue. And as you know, students are allowed to go into private schools. This is how private schools get students. And I have seen in some reports, people who were saying now how are private schools going to get students. But I would want to say that normally the students who go into private schools are not the ones in the last division, right? So, but they are the ones who are in different divisions, but who want to take advantage of what the private schools have to offer. So, meaning that we have been seeing the students who go into private schools, and actually it's a good thing for the public education system for people to have that option. So because also the system gets to learn from each other because we get to see what other practices are. So now for the students who did not meet the required benchmark, the same guideline will also apply for both public and private schools.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We'll be diving a bit more into that. I think based on some of the tweets that we are hoping will come in on this topic. We're seeing a couple. And I'd like to ask the public to just keep the conversation going using #TheSquareRW on all our social media channels. I'd like to turn to the resident panelist. Brenna, I'll start with you. If you have something you want to share, if you want to comment on what the Honorable Minister said, please go ahead.
I think it's the stats that he has just given us are quite interesting because when you think about over 60, then it's a big number. But as a proportion, then 17 compared to the pass mark, clearly you have many students that actually qualified. So I want to think that part of the problem was with the media that just sent out that
sensationalist statements.
Yes, that students, most of them didn't do well. Secondly, I think it is good that we enforce the same standards, public and private. I was just thinking what we're seeing in the health sector, the issues that are with private clinics. We are most likely to see the same with the private education in the coming years, because increasingly we are seeing a lot of regulation, licenses being given to private schools, private universities, but I'm not sure that is going hand in hand with quality checks. So on one hand, you have options that if you don't qualify and go to a public school, there are more options now available of private, but whether the quality is being ensured, I don't know. So it is good that we are getting communication from the ministry saying, one, it is good that we have private and public mixing, but also enforcing standards. Now, I was actually quite shocked that people could just automatically qualify. Like, it just beats the whole point of learning.
When you say automatically qualify, you're shocked that previously students just
Yes.
were advanced to the next level, not on a merit basis from primary to secondary schools.
What would be the basis? I mean, you failed. Why are you qualifying? Now, one would argue and say exams are not really the best test of someone's ability. And rightly so, because sometimes one may not be good with the exams, but they have a certain talent or skill. That's fine. But again, the question for our ministry is, what is our education system? What is the model of benchmark? Because I was trying to figure out, as you know, as preparing for the show, and wondering, when I look at our education system, are we modeling South Korea or Finland, which are at the top, or none? Because it's not clear today if you look at the education system. It would be good if you can clarify that, because then if we are saying if you sat national exams and you didn't qualify, then we can say, for instance, if it's the South Korean model, which puts a lot of focus on grit, hard work, there's a lot of pressure on students, then there's no way around it.
And the Finnish model?
The Finnish model is, they actually do 50%. So less classwork, more teaching happens outside the classroom. Exactly. And there's more room there's a lot of focus on teacher personal development. So it would be good if we can get a sense of what is the benchmark and what kind of model are we trying to build. Again, if you look at the global index of education cognitive skills, you'll see the leading countries are South Korea, Finland, Japan. You have Japan, a few Western countries on that list. We don't have an African country on the top. Yeah, so.
That's an interesting question, and we'll definitely come back to that. Honourable Minister, Benna's question on, what is the Rwandan education system modeled on? And I feel personally it's a ministry that has had so many, sorry to say, but so many loopholes. There've been changes. We've had this conversation on the square several times, whether it's a change of medium of instruction, whether it's a change of an academic year, even right now the timing of making sure that students are not automatically advanced to high school, to secondary school, the timing, yet this is something that was decided, some time back. So these are questions we'll come back to you with, Honourable Minister, but first let me go over to Charles and hear what he has to say. Charles?
My favorite show on RBA is a show called Imboni. And there's a particular quote I like to pick on one of the previous shows of Marie Makile Ingabire of Transparency International, where she says, and I'll say it in Kinyarwanda first and loosely translate it, where she says, to loosely translate that, it's as if the education sector is bewitched and there's nothing sensible that will ever come out of it. But I'm sure it's a hyperbole that's meant to insinuate that there are deep-rooted issues in the sector, that multiple efforts have been tried to redeem it, and that have not come to success. But I think there are two or three things that I want to bring out. One is that I'll disagree with Bana that let's not underlook the 20% failure rate.
17.
17%,
Yes.
and I'm very good at rounding off, excuse me. It's still extremely alarming, because if you're going to, it's like you're going to say, RBC released statistics today that show that 1 out of every 5 Rwandans have a mental condition, and you say that it is small. Therefore, we should not think it is concerning just because it's only 1 out of 5. We should ask ourselves, why is it that it is not 5%, or it's not 2%? And then, of course, in this day and age, in these times, we are very, very quick to blame COVID. What is it beyond COVID that is making students fail? I think on the show previously we've talked about small things like small and important things, like kids getting food at school, and then they were not able to get food at school, and
Due to COVID,
because they have to study on radio or online, and therefore their performance is hindered. And so what is it beyond COVID that has led to the decline in kids' performance? Or is there, are we hearing that 20% is not a decline, or it's a bearable failure rate? So that's the second thing. I think the third thing that really concerns me is around fairness and equitable distribution of our education success. During COVID and sort of throughout 2020, we had situations where people were complaining, scores of people were complaining that in private schools, kids were sitting national exams and passing and being promoted. Or Cambridge exams for that matter, whatever curriculum they were sitting. I think, let me retract this, Minister, before you shoot me in the face. They were sitting exams and being promoted. Now, there was, so the connotation therefore was that those who have access to resources are sitting exams and being promoted. Those who have, because they can sit, have exams online and whatever. Those who have no access to resources because the schools are closed, there's lockdowns, there's curfews and what have you, have to wait for the government to say that schools are reopened, and then you can therefore go back to school. Now, as any responsible government that is out there, education is supposed to be equitable across board. The government of Rwanda was going to find itself in a situation where only the kids of those who have internet were being promoted and advancing in school, and those whose parents are always in the shambas and are waiting for government communiques and what have you are not being promoted. So to that extent, I fully understand the position of the government of Rwanda to say, no, wait, hang on a second. Let us take a step back, make sure everybody sits a national exam on the same pass mark, and then they are promoted. Now, here is where they got it wrong. They did not understand that in the labor market, you don't necessarily need to sit national exams, whether it is primary or ordinary level or advanced level, or however they are calling it these days, for you to be able to make it in the labor space. This cameraman who has a red radar in front of me, I'm not sure he's gone through that entire formal education that the three of us went through. So the labor space is extremely different, and I think it's high time that the Ministry of Education woke up and realized that people can wake up and say, to hell with your examining formulas, we will still make it in life.
So,
Yes.
so,
Can I briefly respond to that?
yeah, but I'd like us after this to give a chance to the minister to respond. So in a nutshell, Charles, you're saying some of the decisions made, at least this academic year, well, following the results, may not really reflect, the long-term labor market that these children may enter to. So you're calling for a more practical, sort of realistic model. Brenna, over to you.
I think it's misleading to talk about learning outcomes, and this is why I was insisting on us first getting clarity on the education model. As we all know, there's increasing investment into TVET. Mm-hmm. It's a deliberate government decision.
Absolutely.
So let's not confuse the two systems, yeah? And quite often, yes, I know among the elite there's the discussion around forget about the master's degrees, all you need is the skills, yeah? But what we're seeing in the 21st century, it's not enough. First of all, let's look at the reality of our economy, yeah? Yes, TVET graduates easily get jobs, but what kind of jobs do they get? Most TVET jobs, as we speak of today, are of the working poor. So if you're arguing right now that people should be, the focus should be on, TVET, more practical sessions, that's fine. But do we have an economy that is ready to absorb them and reward them as per the skills?
Absolutely.
We are not ready. Now, I want us to go back to the education system as is. Yes, the debate around learning outcomes. I must say I'm not clear on the pass mark, even when we say people have passed. What is the pass mark? What are the essential subjects? That I don't have that detail. But I feel that if we are going to improve learning outcomes, we must have a genuine discussion around the quality, and the beginning point for me, I feel that the ministry has done well to say, hang on a second, let's first make sure that at least we have a pass mark and we enforce the pass mark.
Thank you very much, Brenna. Honorable Minister, yeah, it's a lot for you. I'm sure different interventions put forward. But just to recap, I think the first question Brenna asked was, just give us an idea of the model. What is our education system modeled on? And then on Charles's intervention, that is our education system really matched with the labor market needs? These students we're churning out to different higher institutions, are we really preparing them from a young age to match the reality that's out there? Interesting, just very quickly, interestingly, I was having a discussion today with an institution, an academic institution, and we were talking about TVET, vocational training. And there's also a value and a realistic aspect. Not every student is going to go to university, for instance. Yeah. So vocational training is which I applaud the government for, investing in it and trying and direct students there. But to your point, when students graduate from vocational training schools, we don't give, let's say, for instance, a plumber the value. Yeah. Or a technician, the value would probably otherwise give a graduate. So we also need to look at the labor market and apply some sort of value from vocational training graduates. But Minister, over to you on Bernard's remarks regarding our educational system and Charles's intervention on, are we really realistic when we talk about matching our education system to the needs, the realities in the labor market?
Okay, thank you very much, Diana, and I think, as you rightly said, it's a lot for us to go through. But to the question that Berna has asked about the system and giving it a name, is it a Korean model, is it a Finnish model, is it... So I'm not sure if I'm going to find a name for that, but from 2016, we have a curriculum that we call competency-based curriculum, and this is a curriculum or a program that's being run not only in Rwanda but also in other countries. And And this is a curriculum that really focuses on the student and their ability to not only understand what they are learning, but to be able to also apply that to the real life situations. So obviously this is a curriculum that requires that a teacher is able to really work with the students to make sure that they understand the material, but also make sure that they can connect what they learn with the environment they are in. So this is a journey that we have started in 2016, and we have been working towards really making sure that all the requirements are in place, including teachers who are trained enough and well to be able to do that, to make sure that we have the teaching and learning materials, to make sure that we are giving these students an experience that they deserve. And in that curriculum, there's also a big emphasis on other skills like communication skills. Can these kids understand what they are learning, but can also talk about it? Can they communicate it in both written and verbal and spoken forms? And there is also an emphasis on, problem solving and critical thinking. So these are all these so-called 21st century skills, and these are all part of that curriculum that we have. So it's not a good answer for a one-name model. So, but this is the program that we have, but I also want to comment on what Charles has said. I think if you are, he talked about, he gave an example on fairness, on what has happened during the lockdowns, how some students were allowed to continue to study. So, but I want to clarify that these were two different programs, right? So we have what we call international programs, like the Cambridge and the others, and these are the programs that have been set up to be able to be delivered online, right? So, and our program, the national program, we still had some content and others, but there was a challenge in us, getting fully online, even if we did a lot of work in that space. So, but if you look at what happened during that time, I would not say it was a question of fairness, because we are talking about two different systems that were designed differently. And I also want to comment on what he said about graduates and the job market. I think there is a whole debate in education spaces on why education, right? So do you teach people for the labor market, or do you train them to educate the whole person, right? So, and you also know that if I am a student now, by the time I graduate, there will have been different changes in the labor market that we are talking about here. So, which is very difficult for a system that is thinking that, I am training a plumber, I'm training an electrician. It's going to be very difficult for that system to be able to adapt as fast as the world is advancing. So, but if you focus on training the whole person, right? So, does this person has, of course, the required skills, but does this person also have the adaptability that we need, right? So can they grow into something different, right? So can they think differently? So if you put them in front of a problem, can they think through that problem? This is obviously where I would want to go. So instead of having a pre-programmed thing that we are looking for, and then try to build someone towards that. And I also like that you pointed out how our system is also focusing on the TVET. It's a government policy to have 60% of the students post-ordinary level to go into TVET. And this is a deliberate choice that was made to make sure that we also have In addition to general education, you also have that track where people can have these options to pursue different careers. So I think it's a mix of the two, and we have been working very hard to make sure that if you choose the general education track, to make sure that you have that knowledge, that's going to help you go to university. If you also choose go to university or go into life and do other things. So if you also choose the TVET, to make sure that you have the skills and to be able to do what you're supposed to do. And another point I wanted to comment on is that I don't think you should be lost into the numbers, talking about 80% to 20%. To me, we should actually be aiming at 100%, right? So why not everyone who is in our system is able to, to do the things that they are supposed to be doing. But also, you also need to remember that if you are talking about 17%, there are names. These are kids behind these numbers, and they need attention. We need to make sure that they get the help they need. But also, we have to recognize that giving someone a test doesn't really tell you the whole story about that person. So this is also something that we have to acknowledge about our system, but also other education systems. So we need to get to a point where we are able to look at a person, again, as I said, as a whole, try to understand their abilities and what they are capable of doing, and then be able to cater for those things. But obviously, this is a journey that we are on, and we have actually been also emphasizing formative assessments, and to make sure that we are not taking these decisions based on a single data point, right, which is the national exam. And in the future, in the very near future, we will be able to look at what the student has been able to do over a period of time, and then be able to factor that in when we do this. But again, this is not about numbers. This is not about 80% and 20%. This is about these children that we are trying to help as much as we can.
Possible. Thank you, Honourable Minister. For me, two things. I like that you said, let's put. These are not just statistics and numbers, they're students, they're actual human beings behind this. And, thank you also for the clarity in the sense that, responding to Charles's query, you can't have, the world is constantly evolving, the labor market is constantly evolving. And I like that you said one focus of the ministry moving forward is to focus on critical thinking. I think that's a skill set that can help, students balance when they come to the real world. I'll
just put a third one that I've
sorry,
learned.
Charles,
Sorry.
in the interest of time, yeah, because we have one aspect that we need to tackle. I know it's also close to your heart. We need to focus on teachers. But Charles, just hold that thought for now. And Brenna, if you have any. Teachers' Day was yesterday, Tuesday, right? World Teachers' Day. And Honourable Minister, this question, and we'll kind of be quick and succinct with our answers moving on, is to do with teacher recruitment exercises. So government officials stated that a total of 9,418 teachers for primary and secondary schools will be recruited and placed in 650 schools across the country for the next academic year. And if you could just briefly tell us, the current status of teacher recruitment in Rwanda, because in the past we had teacher recruitment exercises that failed. I remember actually last year in 2020 November we had a show on the square where the recruitment exercise really had some pretty dismal results. Some teachers, even though passing the entry level exams, were not placed in schools for months on end, and we didn't meet our targets. So give us a status. What is the teacher recruitment exercise? What is its current status? And what is the ministry doing to ensure that the issues we've been facing in placing teachers in schools across the country is not a recurrent one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much. And as you rightly said, we have been looking for teachers. This year alone, we have added more than 28,000 new teachers. And this was because we have also added many classrooms. You may recall that we have added this in the 2020 we had added 22,500 new classrooms, and this has created more than 600 new schools. And these schools need teachers, so this is why we have been recruiting different teachers. And we have gone through different methods of recruiting teachers. Again, as you said, we started with the classic way to do it, to advertise the jobs, give people a test, and this is the first exercise that you were talking about. And then we went into this other massive recruitment for the 28,000 new teachers. And as you may imagine, there is no normal way to recruit 28,000 people. And we went through different methods. There was one where we looked at, you know, their past performance. So there are different models that we have tried to make sure that we get that large number. And now we also have another exercise going, and we want to make sure that we also harmonize with the normal public service recruitment process, where now you know that we are moving to online exams, and this is what we have been doing, and we have many teachers who have applied, and they are going to sit for exams actually from Thursday of this week. And to give you a sense of numbers, we have 79,873 people who have applied in that system, and 60,782 have been shortlisted. And they are the ones who are going to start doing their exams. And it's going to be online. And again, it's also a first. And it's going to start on Thursday, on the 7th of October.
Yeah, we'll definitely get back to that. There's some tweets coming in, very pertinent tweets to the conversation. Chelsea, if you'll be brief before we go to our Twitter feed.
Yeah, I want to take a positive from what I picked, that there's learning that they are, that they are having.
Yes.
That continuous assessment is going to be very key as they move along. You see,
they being the ministry.
Yes. I really want to see that coming to light. That the end result being the exam should be sort of, and Mr. Minister Gaspar should correct me wrong. It should not be the end. It should not be the alpha and omega of whether a student is bright or dull or whatever. You know, what is being done along the way, make sure that this student who has been scoring A's and B's in different subjects, and then cumulatively he gets 48%, but he's got you know, A's and B's in music and maths and different subjects. Along the way, he's not considered as a failure. Yeah, I think the minister said that they are putting a system in place where those cumulative successes shall not go to waste. I think that's really fantastic. It's very progressive. I want to see that. I want to see that idea see the light of day as soon as yesterday.
Sure. Bernard, yes.
On what you just mentioned around teacher recruitment, of course, there's a lot of progress that there are online assessments, but I would like to hear more on the minimum qualifications for these teachers. And the reason I'm asking this is because if we are going to train a generation of students that are, we hope, will complete school and still be relevant in the 21st century, you would expect that the quality of the teachers is different. I would like to hear more on the minimum requirements. To what extent, yes, in terms of recruitment of these teachers, to what extent are these teachers well equipped to impart knowledge that reflects the realities of the 21st century? Because if you look at this education system as it is today, what you and I would have gone through, it's no longer relevant. You need an overhaul because, you know, the world is changing, the skill set, you look at the impact of technology, artificial intelligence, automation, quantum computing. These are the things that ideally our education system should be prioritizing right from,
The get-go.
from the get-go. The quality of the teachers we are getting, to what extent do they reflect, these realities?
Honorable Minister, if you could briefly answer that as briefly as possible. What is the quality of the teacher recruitment exercise in terms of the quality of teachers?
So that's actually a very difficult question to answer because, again, I think the answer lies in actually what she said. We need teachers with quality, and everything actually lies into the ability of the teacher to be able to help these children. The teachers that we are recruiting, they have gone through different types of training. For instance, the teachers who teach in primary school, they normally go through the teacher training colleges, and those who are in for secondary, they have normally gone through a university training. So, but I think the quality of teachers is also a continuous journey, right? So we have, again, teachers who have been trained in a different method, a method different from what we are asking them to teach in. So, and this is why we always emphasize training, on-the-job training, and this is something that we invest a lot in. But obviously, the long-term goal for us would be to strengthen their pre-service training. And I would want to also emphasize that we have been investing a lot in teacher training colleges. For instance, you may know that we give every student who go into teacher training college a 50% waiver on their tuition fees. So actually the government pays half of their tuition fees. And this is to make sure that we make the colleges attractive to students from different backgrounds. And we are also investing a lot for over this next year into in making sure that the TTCs have everything that they need, to make sure that they have books, computers, teachers, but also close to each TTC, we are going to also invest in a primary school so that those teachers, prospective teachers, can go and have a place to practice. So there is a lot that is happening to making sure that we train these teachers. But obviously, it is still a journey that we are on, and we need to make sure that the teachers have the ability we need them to use.
I really like your responses, being as honest as possible, with the general public and with us. In as much as these issues are there, the ministry is always also looking to continuously learn and improve some of these areas. The next part I would like us to go to is our tweets. Bernard Charles, if you can just hold your thoughts. I know how this topic is very close to all of us. It's very close to our hearts, myself, Bernard, and Charlie. But yeah, we definitely have to hear from our readers. Our viewers. The first tweet that comes in, if you could have that on our screens, is from Luis Alejandro, who says that measuring a young pupil's abilities through examinations is an archaic and traditional way of gauging knowledge. There's a huge gap in providing and measuring an all-round education in public schools that needs to be addressed in order to be at par with the modern world. I think what Luis is saying is connects to what Charles was saying earlier on. We have another tweet coming in from Engineer Karangwa Frederick, who says, much appreciated for the timely conversation. However, I would like to ask the Minister of State what measures they have put in place for students who are supposed to repeat. They either drop out or run for private schools. I think we answered this. We said that the students are not going to be, going to private schools per se, but I think the Minister can reiterate on that in his closing remarks. We have another tweet coming in from Alois, who says that we are happy to see a slight increase in pass rate of students who did national exams of primary 6 and senior 3, but this automatic promotion disclosure will add value to our education sector. Thanks for bringing this conversation. Much respect. That is from Alois. We have another tweet coming in, and this is from Rom, and he says that there is a centralization of teacher recruitment. However, some teachers have not been paid for a year and the districts have been doing so. I think Romeo, what he's trying to say is the teacher recruitment exercise. As the Honourable Minister said, these are issues that, the ministry will be looking into to deal with these issues looking forward. It's a learning process. And our other tweet is from Muhiza, who says, "It is really disappointing to see a student being forced to study a combination he or she did not choose. It changes everything about their future. We need Rwanda to make changes in orienting students, because otherwise, why should students even apply in the first place?" We have a couple of more tweets coming in, but I'd just like the Minister to answer that question in terms of, you talked about remedial measures for students who did not pass. If you could just answer that tweet, Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. And there was a question, which is a very good question, on what are you going to do for these students. And again, as I said, we have actually started doing that. We have identified the schools where the students go to, and we are actually going to increase follow-up to make sure that these students are, first of all, we know where they are, and to make sure that they come back to school. And also, second, to make sure that they are being followed up regularly. And we are putting a whole follow-up system in place. And again, we have teams that are already dispatched to go to the ground and to look at, not only to look at, where the students are, but what do these schools have a particular problem that we need to address? And then we make sure that whatever problem is there, we need to quickly address it and to make sure that these students are being taken care of.
Okay. We have another tweet coming in, and these are some questions directly to you, Honourable Minister. So the first tweet, again, is from Shadrach Dusabe, who says, "Thank you, Honourable Minister, for very informative discussion. I have one question linked with what you described as TVET track versus general education. Where do we place specialized schools like Rwanda Coding Academy? Is it a TVET? Does it mean that the curriculum does not aim for university?" That's one tweet from Shadrach. And then we have another tweet coming in from Musana, who says, "I beg to differ with Berna on the TVET and job market. On one side, white-collar jobs are still better paid than hands-on and technical skills jobs. But there is a new trend of graduates going for TVET to diversify and increase chances to quick start a career or startup." I think both of you, are saying more or less the same thing. But Honourable Minister, the tweet on the Rwanda Coding Academy.
Yeah, so the Rwanda Coding Academy, again, is part of what we call special academies. And you may call it a TVET in that sense that it is a vocation, or it's something that the students want to do. But the program is designed to make sure that the student who wants to go, if they want to go to university, they can go to university, right? So, and if they want to go and go into the job market after they graduate, they can do so. And also I need to mention that there is no particular track that qualifies you to go to university, right? So those students who go to general education can go to university if they choose to do so. But also for the TVET have also been built to make sure that there is no dead stop in the students' progression. So if they want to go to university and to go do other things, different programs are built to be able to do so. So I don't think there is a distinction as far as going to university is concerned.
Thank you. Closing remarks, as brief as possible. Charles Berner, please, you have less than 5 minutes. Don't start asking questions at this point. You know this is a recurring topic on the square. Charles, please, as brief as possible, closing remarks.
First of all, historically, I never ask questions on the square, so...
yes. Please, suggestions or comments, keep it brief.
But that said, I think teaching is a calling, and it's quite... I mean, Minister Gaspar has been very articulate in terms of giving us hope that the future is bright. I need to commend him for that. I think a lot more needs to be done. The COVID pandemic did give the Ministry of Education a wake-up call, and also give teachers a wake-up call that there's alternatives to to teaching. You know, you go to certain districts and you find people started making money in riding bicycles, in being motor drivers and what have you. I mean, we had a show here on the square during the pandemic, and they looked for teachers to recruit, and there were not teachers to be recruited. So that was a huge awakening. But I think the bigger message, sort of my parting shot on this one, Diana, is that the ministry needs to, in the wake of shortcomings on initiatives such as Umwari Musako and what have you, they need to look at ways, other innovative ways in which the teachers can be better incentivized to stay in their jobs. I don't think going by the standard examination is necessarily a good thing. I don't.
Not necessarily a good thing, but more can be added.
Yes,
to
yes, a lot more can be added. Let's think about the box. Think out of the box. We have a lot of initiatives around music, sports, events, and what have you that they can really look into. Yes.
Thank you, Charles.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you short, but we have to respect the time. One of the things I wish we could have talked about was strategies for teacher retention. That's another topic for another time. Berna, closing remarks?
Yes, I'm hoping you'll invite him again.
Yes, absolutely. And this is not his first time, so happy.
I'll go back to the first question that I asked about the system. Now, listening to the plans around teachers recruitment, if we are to maintain the current schedule of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., when is the professional teacher development going to happen that he's talking about?
Good point.
It can happen. You know, it will remain on paper. So it requires rethinking the hours already. That's number one. Number two, until we spend a lot of time looking at how to fix the teacher problem and the quality problem, it doesn't matter what you're trying to do with enrollment and you know, until you fix the teachers. And my submission would be that if we identify the model that we want, then it will make some things clear. For instance, around teacher retention, if we say we are going to get the best graduates, get them to get into teaching, then at least we can begin to,
Brenna,
deal with quality.
Honourable Minister, closing remarks as quickly as possible. I wish we had 2 hours to this conversation, but you know how it is. Very briefly, Honourable Minister.
Yes, thank you very much, and I hope that we can have more discussions like this so that we can talk about the education because it's very important.
I think.
And I would also want to, as we close, I want to talk about teachers, right? So, and teachers, we have been doing a lot in that space, and we never stop at anything to make sure that the teachers have what's required for them to do their job. And this is a discussion that we continue on having. And on the teacher development, we have actually allocated time for teacher development in the schedule every Wednesday. The afternoons will be cleared to make sure that the teachers have that time.
Fantastic.
So, for the students, I just want to actually thank the students who sat for these exams, because it was during a very difficult time, and it was actually heartwarming to see some of the students who have had the difficulties during COVID. There are the ones who came to do the exams while they were sick, and it was very heartwarming to see some of them actually, being able to get, the marks that they wanted. So, and again, we will also keep making sure that the students who did not meet the benchmark are fully followed up, and we make sure that we keep on improving and learning. Thank you.
Honourable Minister Gaspar Twagirayezu, I think this is your second or third time on the show. Always a pleasure when we invite the ministry that you come through informative, practical, honest answers. I would like to thank you so much. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Great. And definitely we need to have more conversations on this. Charles, thank you very much. Berna, I'm sorry I cut you guys short, but yeah, we only have an hour. So viewers, thank you very much for sharing your comments. Keep the conversation going using hashtag The Square RW. To our partners, Uzi Collections and Bourbon Coffee, thank you for always supporting The Square. Have a good night. See you again next week.